Today I'm going to be making a quinoa stuffed tomato with a cilantro pesto. Quinoa is one of my most favorite grains. It is very high in protein and it's great for people who are allergic to wheat or corn. I'm going to be making a cilantro pesto instead of the traditional basil pesto. Cilantro has a very unique and sharp flavor, and it's going to give the dish a very summery and fresh taste. Instead of chopping out tomatoes like I usually do to put in the quinoa, I'm going to stuff the quinoa in the tomato, which makes this dish a great appetizer or fun side dish. And since quinoa has protein in it, it could also be a main vegetarian dish. My first step is to make the quinoa. So while it's cooking, I can make the pesto, and then we can just combine all the ingredients together. So for quinoa, you cook it like you cook rice. So I have here 1 cup of quinoa, and I'm going to put 1 cup of quinoa to 2 cups of water. And I'm going to bring that to a boil, and once it comes to a boil, I'm going to put it on a simmer and wait till all the water evaporates and the quinoa looks translucent. So I'm just going to pour some water in it to get this going. I can measure it, but you can measure it. I prefer to eyeball it. And put it on the stove. Now I'm going to keep an eye out for this while I do my cilantro, and I can babysit it at the same time that I'm making my cilantro pesto. So I have the cilantro here. It's a whole bushel of cilantro that I bought from the supermarket, and I'm going to cut off the ends and just use the leaves. I'm going to pack it to be about 1.5 cups of packed cilantro. First I need to wash it and get rid of the stems. So I'm just going to wash it, and cilantro is actually my favorite food. I originally discovered it with guacamole. Now I literally cannot get enough of it, to the point where I find a way to work it in to all my dishes. And I thought it would be a natural fit for pesto, so I'm excited that I get to make this dish. So I'm just going to cut off the ends, make sure I pretty much only the leaves, and pack it into a cup of 1 cup. See how much I have here. Initially when I made this, I made it with 2 cups of packed cilantro, but I think I'm just going to do a 1.5 cups because it was 2 cilantros. So now I'm going to pour the second cup in, and we're ready for the pine nuts. I'm going to put about a cup of pine nuts in here, and I'm going to be putting some of this also. Some nice garlic. This is vacuum packed for individual freshness. I really like it. Open this up. I'm going to put about 2 cloves of garlic. I'm going to chop it kind of finely. The food processor should get most of it, so I'm not going to really worry about. No, actually, I'm just going to throw it in there and let the food processor take care of chopping it. So I put 1.5 cups of cilantro here, and 1/3 cup of pine nuts, and I also put 2 garlic cloves. And now I'm going to be pouring in maybe 1/3 cup of olive oil. I'm going to put the salt and pepper on a little bit later when I am ready to put it on the quinoa. That way I can taste it and know the exact proportions to the quinoa of how it tastes. And my next process is I'm actually going to food process this. Now that we're done with this, I'm going to bring this back up here, and my quinoa is still cooking, so I'm going to take this time to hollow out the tomatoes. Now I have 10 small tomatoes. You can also use 6 larger tomatoes, and so I'm just going to cut off the tops and scoop out the inside. So let me get a knife that I'm going to do this with, and use this knife, and I'm just going to slice off the top. You can slice off as many as you want, as much as you want, rather. So just make it nice and even. And once you have that going on, you could just go around by you know, the pulp and the thicker part of the tomato and cut it out, and then you're just going to scoop it out with a spoon. Ooh, it's leaking. So you have this, and then I'm just going to scoop it out with a spoon right into the trash, actually. So it's going to look like this when you're done with it. I cut up the tomatoes and scooped out all the insides, and I'm ready for the quinoa. I've also cut up one red onion to add to the mixture and add some different texture and a fresh flavor to the quinoa. Now my quinoa is ready. I'm going to take it off the stove and mix it around a little bit. I'm going to add, it's still a little bit hot, which is okay. I'm going to add this cilantro mixture to the quinoa. Take this out. And this is my favorite part of the dish. This is like when I'm done with all the components and I feel like I can put it all together and make one solid, you know, sweet looking dish kind of. And so I add this nice green, and I still left some of the pine nuts whole. I feel like, you know, again, it adds like a different texture to the dish. And scoop up every last bit so I don't miss anything and put it into the quinoa. Now, this is a beautiful color, and the quinoa absorbs it beautifully. My mother always taught me to just scoop out everything from the bottom, and I took her literally when it came to cookie batter, but nothing else. So I'm just going to mix this around. It is steaming. I don't know if you could see that. I'm going to hold it up so you guys can see. And so it's absorbing the green flavor of the quinoa, and it's going to get pretty green. Now that it's all mixed in, I'm going to put in the chopped onions. Just put all that in here. I'm actually going to not use the whole thing because I cut up a large onion instead of a medium onion. So I would suggest using a medium-sized onion. I'm going to mix this in with the quinoa. And now that I have this quinoa mixture, I'm going to put in the salt and the pepper. Just a couple of sprinkles of salt. And some garlic. And also some pepper. You don't have to put garlic in because we put a whole garlic into the pesto, but sometimes I like to put a little extra garlic in the end, just in case. I'm going to mix this up, and now I'm going to start scooping it into the tomatoes. I have the tomatoes right here close so I don't miss any of the quinoa. I'm going to just, I'm actually going to pick it up. And this is, you know, it's kind of delicate, but it's also fun. Once again, it's the coming together of the dish. The quinoa looks beautiful with the red tomatoes, and I'm going to put the cap back loosely on, but you don't have to do that. You can leave it off. And this also, you know, honestly would make a great snack. It's very, you know, very compact, but it packs a lot of protein and a lot of flavor. So I would definitely recommend, you know, packing this as a snack in some way, or, you know, just snacking on it around the house. And also, I'm going to actually refrigerate it. Now I'm going to eat it slightly hot, but I would recommend you refrigerating it before you eat it. Either refrigerate the quinoa or refrigerate it afterwards once you put all the components together. Okay, so now I'm done with the dish. I actually invited one of my friends over to come and taste it with me. So I'm just going to take 2 out for us, and I'm going to put the rest in the fridge. She should be here any moment. She's a good cook too, but she likes tasting my food. Oops, this fell.